Welcome all of you. So, continuing with the ESG part, previously we saw what is environmental social governance, the three pillars of ESG. Then we saw whether it's mandatory or not mandatory for different companies in India, and also how this concept of ESG evolved in India over the years from 2009 to 2023. Now, today we'll cover the topics, that is ESG benefits and challenges, mainly with respect to businesses perspective, and the concept of ESG score. How do we calculate ESG score, and one numerical example which shows steps that are involved in ESG score calculation. So, for companies, ESG benefits and challenges. So, these are different aspects under which we can categorize what are the benefits of ESG and what are the challenges. So far as business growth is concerned, ESG will help improve the brand value and the trust of the investor, because it shows that there are good governance in the company, it is responsible towards the society, it cares about the environment. So, business growth, it will help improve the brand value and investor trust, but the challenge is high implementation cost. To get those governance good or environmental parameters in control, or to show responsibility towards society, it won't come for free, it will have high cost. And so, that is why the challenge is the high implementation cost so far as business growth is concerned. Risk management, it will reduce legal and environmental risk, but then the challenge there would be data accuracy and reporting difficulties. So, to ensure data accuracy, the consistent measurement throughout the year for all the environmental risk or emissions or parameters need to be taken. And for legal risk, I think the way the things are being recorded and reported, that need to be reliable. So, there may be a challenge. Environment, obviously ESG having company will prefer to have lower emissions, lower waste, less pollution, but then it will come at the high cost of cleaner technologies. Employees and society, it will improve safety, inclusion and productivity so far as employees and society is concerned. And but since it is a human we are talking about, how do we monitor labor right outside the company, mainly in the supply chain? Within the premises of the company, the ESG principles can guide and implement the labor rights properly, but monitoring these rights outside the premises of company would be a challenge. Governance, it enhances transparency and ethical conduct, but challenge would be board independence and corruption risk. So, often it happens like the company's board would belong to majority members of a single family in a family owned or run businesses. So, there it will be a challenge to have an independent board and reduce the risk of biasness or corruption. But then if a company is claiming that it has ESG implemented in it, so at least the governance is has enhanced transparency and ethical conduct. Market access, it will give better access to global and sustainable markets, and challenges complex and changing regulations. In different countries or different segments, if the regulations change, the situation may be complex to get the access to global or sustainable market. So, that is a challenge. Long term impact, it ensures sustainable and inclusive growth, but then you have to to get ESG implemented in the company, you have to change the entire culture, and for small or medium scale companies it will be very difficult. So, the adoption would be slow, especially in the MSMEs. For bigger firms, like making one policy and getting implemented would be relatively easier, because they have some stable financing and economics compared to the small companies or the medium scale companies. So, these are some benefits and challenges for the companies. Second point was ESG score. How do we calculate this score and what exactly is the score? Okay. So, it is a rating that measures a company's environmental, social and governance performance. So, basically it is a rating which measures its ESG performance. Okay. And ESG score, whether it is good, average, poor, bad or excellent, it will show how responsible and sustainable a company is. It can be used by investors, regulators and stakeholders to make decisions related to that company. It can help compare the companies on the basis of sustainability. So, earlier I think when we talked about sustainable development goals, there also we had something called as SDG index, and if we have to compare two countries based on the how far they are from achieving sustainable development goals, we can make use of this SDG index. But then there were 17 goals and each goal had different indicators, and it was mainly at the national level or state level. Here for a project level or for a company level, ESG score may be a better matrix or a better rating to compare the companies on the basis of ESG or sustainability. There are different agencies or companies all over the world, even in India we have some which gives the ESG rating to different companies. It is just like ISO certification. There are some agencies in India and outside which are accredited to give the ISO certifications, ISO 14001 certification of environmental management system, right. So, one of the most like famous companies globally which gives ESG rating are this Morgan and Stanley, Capital, I think I do not know what I stands for. So, it's but from Morgan and Stanley, then Sustainalytics, SP Global, S&P Global and Refinitiv. So, these are some globally known ESG rating agencies, and in India we have CRISIL ESG, which is Credit Rating Information Services of India Limited, then CARE and ICRA. CARE is Credit Analysis and Research Limited, and ICRA is Investment Information and Credit Rating Agency. So, these agencies in India can give ESG rating to the companies which apply to those agencies. So, the scale, it is typically given in the form of scale like say 0 to 100, or it can be 0 to 10 or 0 to 50. The score range does not really matter. Any agency can have its own score range to calculate, and it can also be given in the letter based rating, that is A, B, C or AA, BB, CC, something like that. So, if we talk about 0 to 100, which is the most commonly used range for ESG score. So, if it is 80 to 100, we say excellent or strong, meaning very strong ESG performance, very low risk. From 60 to 80, it is good or moderate, acceptable ESG performance, manageable risk. Okay. And if it is between 40 to 60, it is average and weak, ESG issues present, improvement needed. There is ESG, but then there are a lot of issues where improvement is needed. And if it is below 40, we say it is a poor ESG, there is a high risk and weak sustainability practices in that firm. And in letter based, A would stand for ESG leader like AA or AAA, single A and triple B, it is good performer, double B and single B, it is average performer, and CC is the high ESG risk. These are different ways, different examples of ESG score used by different agencies all over the world. But most common one is 0 to 100. So, ESG score calculation flowchart. What are the steps involved in calculating the ESG score? Let us see it with respect to a flowchart. So, as we know, there are three pillars E, S and G, and for any company it is not necessary that all three are equally important. They may have their own importances or weights. So, the first thing is you define the pillar weights for E, S and G. Now, once the pillar weights are defined, under each pillar there would be different factors or indicators. So, list the indicators under each pillar with their weights and assign performance scores, maybe on 0 to 10 or 0 to 100. If you are following 0 to 10, do everything with respect to 0 to 10. If you are following 0 to 100, do everything with respect to 0 to 100. So, performance scores are assigned to each of the indicators. This is mainly like often on the basis of data collected from the company or the interviews. Once you have pillar weight, the performance score for the indicator, you calculate overall indicator weight, which is called the pillar weight into indicator weight, that is overall indicator weight in the entire ESG matrix. Then sum all the weighted contributions, that is overall indicator weight into the score. This score is the performance score given for that particular indicator. Once you get the weighted contributions for each indicator, sum all the weighted contributions, and once you sum all the weighted contributions, you add all indicator contributions for each pillar. When you add the contributions of indicators for each pillar separately, it will give you the total value of E, total value of S and total value of G, and addition of those three would give us the final ESG score. So, sometimes if we do not do it individually pillar wise, then if we just take out the total E, S and G, like with respect to the total ESG, at that time average of E, S and G can be taken. So, the range typically can be 70 to 100 or 80 to 100 can be high ESG, 40 to 70 is medium, and 0 to 40 is low. Again, these ranges keep on changing by plus minus 5 or 10 depending on the rating agency. Okay. So, now that you have seen the ESG score calculation flow chart, let us do one numerical so that it becomes easier to understand how to calculate ESG score. Example, a company wants to calculate its overall ESG score on a 0 to 10 scale. The weights assigned to each pillars 40%, 35 and G 25. So, now these are the weights for that company. So, they want to give more importance to environment, followed by social, and least importance to governance. The company further evaluates indicators within each pillar. So, each of these 3 pillars will have some indicators, and those indicators will have some score between 1 to 10. So, for environment, for E, the indicators are carbon emissions, energy efficiency, waste management, and their scores are out of 10, they scored 7, 8 and 6. Okay. This is the score of the indicator. Now, within the environment pillar, how much is the weightage given to each indicator? That is given in this column. So, 40% weightage is for carbon emissions and 30% is for energy efficiency and waste management. Similarly, the indicators for S, it is social, are given: employee safety, diversity inclusion, community engagement, and here also the weights are similar and scores are out of 10. Then we have third indicators for governance. So, there are 2 indicators, board independence and anti-corruption practices, and both are given equal weightages and score is 8 and 9 out of 10. So, sometimes it may happen that the weights of indicator under each pillar may be given, and sometimes it may happen they are not given, only the scores are given. So, the best set of assumption in that case would be assuming equal weightage for each indicator under each pillar. Here also, like if weights assigned to ESG pillars are not given, you can assume equal weightage to ESG 33%, okay, 33.3. So, that it matches 100. But here in this numerical, the weights for pillars are also given and the weights for indicators under each pillar are also given. So, weight means importance and score means its value, which we have to use in the numerical. So, now we have to calculate the overall ESG score using this data. So, how do we start with first? So, let us calculate ESG pillar weights. It is straightforward, it was given to us 40, 35, 25%. So, it is 0.4, 0.35 and 0.25. Those are the weights of 3 pillars: E 0.4, S 0.35, G 0.25. Now, second step is weighted score of each indicator under each pillar. So, let us deal with separately pillar by pillar. So, let us talk for environmental pillar first. There were 3 indicators, right? Carbon emissions, energy efficiency, waste management. Now, environment pillar weight is 0.4, we have calculated, it is given that 40% weightage is for E pillar. Now, indicator weight, these 3 indicators weight in environmental pillar was also given to us 0.4, 0.3, 0.3 in the question. So, overall weight of this indicator would be 0.4 into 0.4, how much? 0.16, 4 into 3, 0.12, 0.4 into 0.3, that is 0.12. I am writing it here, how do you get this? 0.4 into 0.3. Now, the scores are also given in the question. So, now what do we have? We have overall weight and we have score for the indicator, overall weight for the indicator. So, the contribution of these indicators individually towards ESG would be overall weight into score. So, 16 into 0.16 into 7, 112, 1.12, 12 into 8, 96.96, 12 into 6, 72.72. So, these are the individual indicators contribution, okay, to environmental pillar. So, total contribution of environmental pillar would be summation of these 3 values. So, E total would be 1.12 plus 0.96 plus 0.72, which is 2.8. Understood? So, just like we calculated the total E contribution, like for the E pillar, we can do it for the other 2 pillars. For social pillar, there were 3 indicators. The social pillar weight was 35%, it is given to us. Indicator weights 40, 30, 30 was given to us. Overall weight we calculate by multiplying these 2 numbers, okay. And once we get this overall weight, scores are given in the question. So, contribution would be 14 into 9, 126, it is 1.26. These two would be multiplied to get 0.63 and here. Now, total S contribution would be addition of these three numbers, which will give us 2.625. So, similarly, you do it for governance pillar. In this, we had only two indicators, okay, and their weights were 0.5 and G pillar weight is 0.25, 25%. So, overall weight is 25 into 0.5, 125, 125. The scores were given 8 into 9. So, contribution would be 0.125 into 8, that is 100, 0.125 into 9, that is 1.125. So, the total G contribution is 1 plus 1.2, that is 2.125. Now, we got the total contributions of each pillar E, S and G. So, what would be the ESG score? It will be just the final ESG score would be the addition of E plus S plus G total. Okay. So, 2.8 plus this, it is 7.55. So, the final ESG score of this company, like based on the 1 to 10 scale, it is 7.55. If you convert it to 100 scale, it will be 75.5, and based on that high, medium, low, this will come under the category of high ESG. Okay. So, this company has a very good ESG track. So, that is how a numerical is solved. To summarize, what we started with the benefits and challenges of environmental social governance with respect to company's perspective mainly, like we checked different aspects, and under each aspect what is the benefit of ESG and what is the challenge related to that aspect. Then we looked at what is ESG score. It is a rating system to determine the performance of company in terms of ESG pillars, and we saw like each pillar may have multiple indicators which has their own weight under pillar, and each pillar will have its own weight amongst three pillars. You multiply and sum and get the overall contribution, and we saw the flow chart how to calculate ESG, and then we did one numerical example to see how individual ESG scores are calculated, and then they are summed up to find the final total ESG score for a company. So, we will stop here. Thank you.